Hey guys, welcome back to an exciting episode of Yoml, and a whole new week, a whole new set of reflections to go through. Today, we're actually going to talk about part two of five of another great book, The Humankind.
Yeah, I actually this book is a book that
Sapien,
that yes, well this is
Sapien.
a book that Snow actually recommended to me. Uh
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but this was like I was like right after Amelia had passed away, and I think you and I had connected on something. It was maybe like a couple months after Amelia had passed away, and I don't know. I think you had recommended.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I'm trying to remember this conversation now.
You had like texted it to me. You're like, I just finished this book, *Sapiens* is really good, and thought you might enjoy it. And I was like, sounds interesting. So at that time, I was really just looking. This is before I actually met True, I believe, when I started this book. This is just for context. This is like really early on, and after Amelia had passed away. So it was only maybe a couple months, uh, and yeah, I was starting to my brain was starting to come back around a little bit. We were just talking about the body keeps the score right before this, and a lot of trauma is just so hard to process anything that's going on around you. And these books were how I kind of kept myself engaged in the world and my mind active, a lot of times. And this particular book is one of my top five favorites that I decided to write 5-part reflection on. And this is the second part of that, which was never stop your quest for knowledge. So I had many aha moments when I was going through the Sapiens book, but this one was probably one of the biggest, honestly, revelations that I had. It was so early on after Amelia had passed away, and my brain was so, I don't know, in a different world a little bit, but I was starting to like learn so much every single day, and I kind of started to know. I liked that feeling, and I found a little bit of connection with Amelia still while I was doing this stuff. And I hadn't fully figured out what that meant. That came later on down the road, but I knew I still felt like a connection for some reason. Whenever I was like learning something, I could just feel connected to my daughter for whatever weird reason. And I remember going through this book, and I had this like big like aha moment of he was talking about the author was talking about how Europeans rose to become like the dominant culture and the modern age, and seemingly out of nowhere, like they were this like stupid little tribe of weirdos that lived in like an undesirable place, and had not like they had no there's no reason at all they should have been ever better than anybody. They came from ancient Asian countries and things like that, where they've had like thousands and thousands of years of culture and food and humanity growth, civilization growth and all that other stuff. And then all of a sudden, like these little like nomadic tribes up in Europe just started coming out of nowhere and started dominating the world. And the question was why, right? Like, I don't know if you guys remember this part in that book, but he started to say his theory was the European culture in general was based on the simple idea that they don't know anything, and that they were going to go all to the ends of the earth to go figure that out. And like they had this voracious desire to want to consume and learn and bring any new nugget back to their like the scientific revolutions and all this other stuff they were going through. Like they had an unquenchable appetite for new knowledge. So they would risk. I just had this thought in my head. I could see these people jumping on a boat, like leaving Lisbon, Portugal, or leaving the Netherlands, or Britain, and in England, and like literally they would jump on a boat, have no idea if they were going to find any new knowledge or anything. Like they just left their families, risked their lives, and on the hope that they would sail around the world potentially and come back with one little tiny nugget of new knowledge that they could bring back to their collective tribe to keep pushing things forward. And I just had this like moment of, hey, how cool is that, that our ancestors did this. And then B, for me it was almost depressing, because then I looked around in my own life, and back in this time and day and age that we're in, where we have every piece of knowledge you could ever imagine at our fingertips, and so many people, and myself included, for so long in my adult life, spent most of our time trying to be an expert on shit, and just stopped trying to learn. I don't know when it happened or what happened, but like I know in my own personal life, for the longest time as an adult, I spent a lot more time trying to be an expert in my field and stopped caring about any new knowledge really for the most part beyond stupid pop culture crap that would just pop up, on Yahoo or whatever algorithm was just shoving in my face. And I don't know, I just had this depressing kind of thought, of like, man, like this is something that is innately human and something that like this quest for knowledge is amazing. And I kind of made a vow right then and there that, this is when I added learn something new every day to my core values list. Actually, it was after when I read this book and kind of had that thought. And that's something that Amelia and I have, strived to do, which is a big reason why this journey exists, the Your Magical Learning Journey. It was just keep learning, keep exploring, keep finding new nuggets to bring back and talk about it with your friends, just like we're doing right now. And, and see what happens. Right. So that's my reflection, I guess, for this particular portion of this book. Love to get your guys' thoughts.
Drew, what do you think?
Well, as a number of thoughts came to mind. I mean, for me, I think when we say never stop your quest for knowledge, for whatever reason, it made me think of eating the frog, right? Because it's like something you have to do to keep up with whatever. Like, hey, I want to live longer, so I got to go exercise, but I want to live longer, but I don't want to exercise. So right. I think the quest for knowledge for me, it's to me, it seems like it's a characteristic of success. But you look at, for example, let's say, you look at Europe back in the 16th centuries when they're trying to explore. And, you would ask yourself, why would they explore the other side of the the sea versus going to Asia?
I don't know. Why?
It's Wouldn't you think it's easier to go to Asia because they're on the same land? I mean, it's shorter too.
Right.
But the thing is, you're looking at them, at these guys in China, right? These guys in Japan, you're talking about like ancient China, ancient Japan. They are light years ahead of Europeans.
Oh, yeah.
Europeans are like the underdog, so they can't do anything. So the fact that it describes a I would say a cycle, meaning like when somebody gets to a certain point, they stop exploring, right? They stop exploring.
They think they know shit.
Right. So
right.
the Chinese, the Japan, the Koreans, all these, they have made it. So you're talking about China have like 4,000 years of history, and you have a bunch of, I guess books and scrolls or whatever to kind of retell some of these things. So we know they exist long before the European become, even noticeable on the map. So when you look at that perspectives, the European had no choice but to explore, right? And the exploration is what I would say the human superpower. We as a human wants and need to explore because we like discovery. We like to find new things. So we can't go and take it from China because we're nothing, right? So you go to the other side, to the far, whatever you want. You're trying to find something. You want to find a trade route to India to get spices and plants and organisms back. And you look at the same cycle happens over and over again. You're looking at like AT&T versus Western Union, because Western Union is completely dominated the telegraph the telegraph arena. So the telephone has to invent. Anyone becomes a underdog must find new ways to survive, and because they do that, the quest for knowledge give them the ability to catapult ahead of the incumbent. You look at Google versus Yahoo, right? Yahoo was a giant internet search engine. Google was struggling; they couldn't find a way to beat Yahoo in terms of its popularity. But because it's struggling, it try to find new ways to disrupt the new, they find new ways to disrupt the current status quo. You look at like um, the space exploration with SpaceX and Elon Musk. Look at like Tesla cars versus Ford and Motor. I mean, Tesla, they make more money than all these other car makers combined because they had to. When you had to do something, it forces you to wants to find out different ways to be creative, which is to me our biggest superpower is our creative imaginations. When we do that, we get that, but the cycles continue. So when we are looking at the reflection, say never stop your quest, I think um it's a good reminder to have, but I'm still concerned for the cycles to repeat. So it never seems to stop, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I would want to put it into what we do is the answers to this problem, because the problem is the cycles always repeat itself. But because when we eat a frog, we get to the point where we eat enough frogs, right? We get to say, well, I have sacrificed so much. I have made it to the top. I'm gonna stop eating the frog. And when you do that, you become this incumbent, and you allow the newcomer to, find other ways to beat you eventually. In the long run, you will, because this is the question you asked me before, Chris. Can you be world class, right? Remember, if you're saying that eventually you can beat, so let's say, um, you know, some famous tennis player. I don't know. Pick one.
No, Novak Djokovic. Yeah.
Right, Novak. Let's say if Novak, right, does not have the passion, but he has the talent to play tennis, but you have the passion and a little bit of talent. The question you asked me was, will you eventually will beat Novak?
Yeah, when I'm like 95 and he can't, and hasn't played for 40 years and I'm still playing because I want to.
and that's my answer to this problem that we have, because everything repeats in a cycle, but because you're focusing on the wrong method, the wrong approach, because you say, I'm sacrificing all of these things that I want to do to go and endure the tennis lessons and the blah 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 and all that. Eating the frogs to the point where I can say, hey, I eat enough frog to gain this whatever, and then I become the top dog, and then I stay there. I don't want to eat any more frogs, right? Because that's my reward. So you become stagnant at certain point, right? Because you eat a frog. Because frogs, when you're eating frogs, right, it's not sustainable. So that's the answer that I'm giving as far as the problem that I'm putting forth is that because you are this quest for knowledge, the quest for becoming great, it's good, but if it's not part of your passion,
Right.
it eventually will stop. But if you do something that you'd like to do anyway, you never stop. When you never stop doing that, you will always discover new ways to do things. You look at Chris, right? If you love tennis, like this is your true passion, you're gonna play until you can't play anymore, until your hands won't let you play anymore. But because you play, you will discover new ways to play it. New ways to hit the backhand, new ways to do the forehand, or new ways to play with your opponent's mind. You're always going to be questing for knowledge in a thing that is passionate for you versus the thing that say I had to, do this thing which I don't may or not even like, right? Some people don't mind, but it's not something they would, get up and just do for nothing, right? They have to have something to give them the incentive to do that. So doing that quest for knowledge, I would say that's a wrong approach. And when you get into the same cycle as everyone else that you see so far, that when they get to the point where they become like the top dog, they become stagnant. But if you get to a person that is passionate with what they do, their learning in that particular subject will never end. Their quest for knowledge in that subject will never end, and they never had to eat a frog to get there. And so to that person, to beat him in her or her in that particular subject or arena is nearly impossible. So you think about Novak, right? If Novak has the talent plus the passion, there's no way you can beat him, regardless of how long that you play, because you advance them, he advance them. So, but he has more talent than you, then he's always gonna get better. But that's what I'm saying is the title of the reflection is a good reminder to know that these are the cycles that give you the characteristic to become successful, because the knowledge is a superpower. When you unlock it, it's going to give you, a surprising result, because it's a compound effect of all the things that you have gathered, because um, those knowledge can give you the exponential explosion that you need to catapult yourself ahead, even when you're so far behind. And I think that is a good reminder. But at the same time, once you get to the top, how do you essentially break the curse of having become stagnant at that point? And I say to you that to find something that you're truly passionate about, questing for knowledge is a given. For the questing for knowledge in that passion is a given, because you do that naturally, and you don't have to eat the frog to get it.
Yeah, no, can't disagree with anything you said. Snow, love to hear what you think.
Yeah. When Drew was talking, it reminded me of a quote that I heard a young fellow say this past week when I was on vacation, is that let's see if probably on the second time we'll get it right, but there's some like hard times make tough people make easy times make weak people, and weak people make hard times.
Yeah,
Just sort of like a cycle kind of keeps going with that. And I think like as we let's say we're in our profession and we're becoming experts at something, our mortality can sometimes catch up with us too, and we can whether find ways that we just kind of want to conserve energy and cut corners and get a little bit complacent. And so I think sometimes even just the amount of energy and our amount of drive can change. I think the amount of drive that we'll have in our careers in our mid-30s is going to be different, a different type of drive in a different direction almost. And when we're in our 50s or our 60s, kind of a different game almost. But so I think like the idea of the quest for knowledge, I just think is obviously like important. It's kind of like good for survival, but sometimes modernity can make it easy to sit back and relax. Let's say especially you're retired, you got your pension, you're all set.
right.
Your thirst for knowledge or whatever, you just aren't going to strive as much. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or anything. It's just kind of some conservation of energy a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious where you guys are, this quest for knowledge, either kind of where it's been showing up for you guys. If you feel like you do take it on, where it's been showing up for you within the past like week or two. I think for myself, I think it just keeps showing up and just wanting to read books and wanting to understand more about the world. And it's just amazing how little shit I know,
That's right. Like
it's just crazy how little I know. Like I'm just baffled by that. Just the more I learn, it's just
we've had many reflections about this already through the course of this journey of like just the one of the core values that we started off with clubbing is like we don't know anything, like, and we say it all the time because it's and I don't mean that to be like stupid about it, like of course we know some stuff, but like but we really don't, like, because you said, the more that you learn, the more that you realize, oh my god, like there's so much more to learn, like there's so much more to like and maybe I'm totally wrong about everything that I already know anyway, and like that's for me, that's where like I go back to with this constantly is this is about enjoying my life every single day and enjoying it with, for myself, my purpose is to do this stuff with my daughter, and to live the life that she didn't get a chance to live, but to kind of do it with her through living my values. And that's kind of my purpose of what I've designated as my purpose in my life. And one of the one of the things I stumbled upon on this journey was in the book uh, Moonwalking with Einstein, which is such a fucking awesome book. I love that book so much. He talked about how monotony collapses time and novelty unfolds it. So like the newness of new knowledge just makes it feel like the time is endless. Like, I mean, it just feels like when you learn something new all the time, it just, I mean, think about when you go travel, you know, and like your first time you go to a new location, a week feels like a day, you know, and you know, when you learn a new book or you're applying a new concept or something like that, and you're learning a new concept from new things, like it just makes you feel so engaged and so excited, like, you know, to like go, oh my God, like, I mean, like this is I didn't know, you know, and like and that novelty, it just makes time feel endless, you know. But then flip that around in that the expert status, like whenever I'm, you know, I would call myself an expert in sales development, prospecting, whatever. Like I've been doing this now for you know 15 20 years of my career or whatever it is, and I coach people, I mentor people, I lead sales teams, you know. Like, I mean, I would call myself an expert, I guess. True would probably call himself an expert, definitely in like, you know, coding and technology and things that in his world. And Snow, you're an expert in all the things that you've become an expert in your career.
No, I'm not that. But anyway, I get your point though.
But you might what I noticed before, you know, this journey with Amelia and this whole year of magical learning thing is my job was boring as fuck. Like, I mean, I was bored all the time. I'm like, yeah, I already know this. Like, oh, cool. Like, you know, learning, you know, a new concept every now and then. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, like I can go, you know, I just like hung on to that one new concept for as long as I could, you know, and tried to like, you know, make it a part of my life. But like eventually that would burn out, right? Like you got to always keep learning something. Otherwise it just feels so awful knowing shit all the time. Like, you know, it's just so boring knowing shit, you know, and you're like, I already know that. Like, you know, like, okay, this is what you do, guys. Just go do this and this and this. Like, you know, I don't know. Like, there's something about that novelty every single day of
you're right. Like knowing is so boring.
Right. It's just knowing shit is boring. Like,
and I think that we can get frustrated when we hear younger people talk. It's like, God, they're so mature. They just know this. Come on, you know what I mean? Like, I already know this. Like, I don't want to hear this crappy talk.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, well, they feel the same, you know. Well, with us, we just like, you just disengage with them and you're like, you don't even know yet. Just you know, like, I don't care. Like, you know, I'm not gonna waste my time teaching you this stuff because you gotta go. That's the fun of life is discovering this shit, you know. Like, I don't know. I mean, it really that really solidifies it home for me of why humanity. Actually, a book I just read recently, they called it it was The Sixth Extinction. She called it the madness gene. And like we have this like madness gene of like we always want to go explore new stuff, like, and it's like never fucking
isn't that dopamine? I mean, while you're even talking, just made me think about the molecule of more and about how like the alien, I forget what it's called, something that's on the genetic DNA that codes for dopamine, how it's like, you know, more in a certain genetic population, and that's why maybe like white people, whatever, or certain white people who like went on these explorations over to like North America, like ended up having it because like they were like taking these large leaps and like really unknown, like,
yeah.
So,
no, I mean that makes a ton of sense. I mean, and I would totally agree with the whole dopamine. It is addicting learning new things. I mean, it is addicting. Like, I mean, like once you start learning new stuff, like you don't want to stop. Like, and you're like, I mean, and like you said, the more that you learn, the more that you realize you don't know anything. And you're like, oh my God, like I could like, I mean, I could spend the rest of my days learning all day long something new and never even crack 0.0001% of all the knowledge of humanity, you know. And it's and it's humbling, number one, and then B, it's just like, well, shit, I got to get to work, like, you know. I mean, like, you know, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just.
Do you read quantum physics?
Do I?
Mm-hmm.
I tried to read that book by Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time, and my brain about wanted to explode. I couldn't hardly understand a single fucking thing, but I was like, well, at least I have a lot to learn, you know.
So would you read more of quantum physics?
I would check it out, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I feel like quantum physics for me is like this like Uber game that these other people have been playing, like Buddhism or something like that. Like Buddhism and quantum physics are like the same thing. It's like, you know, you need to go retreat onto a log cabin somewhere in the mountains for like 30 years to come away and go, oh, I get it. You know, like, you know, I mean, there's a lot to unpack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So I think the reason why, I mean, there are certain subjects that you spend, I guess, like 5, 6 books in a single kick trying to get, you know, when you were reading like the Entangled Life, then you went
Right.
into exploring the mushrooms and all this stuff. And the thing is, when you read something that is like quantum mechanics or physics or whatever, you know, it's still knowledge. But my point is that there is certain things, certain knowledge that are more valuable than others to that individual,
Yeah.
because you know you have a certain affinity for a different set of knowledge, and you also have a certain foundations to understand those certain knowledge. So when you read a mushroom or whatever, you can relate, you can understand, you can say, well, yeah, I see that. But when you read like Buddhism or you read quantum mechanics or quantum physics, it's
Yeah.
like, well, I have no idea what it's saying. It's just this word to me. And so you read one book and then you stop just because there isn't. And but my point is, it's still knowledge. But I say that knowledge has also alignment. I mean, alignment with the things that makes you you. As far as you know, you're an you're an extrovert, you're a social person, versus me, and I'm introvert. I'm, you know, like to be, you know, at peace and not be disturbed by different things, right? And so the I guess the expressions of the other genes as well, in addition to the dopamine genes, allows you to determine the kind of information, the kind of knowledge, the kind of learning. I think learning is universal in that there's always a gene among all of us humans that wants to learn, explore, and discover. And the aha of the discovery is what make us, you know, give us the incentive to kind of continue to, you know, fiddle around in the dark trying to find
Yeah.
different things to play with. But the I guess the alignment of you as a person, as a you know an entity, and the kind of knowledge that comes with it, that determines greatly, you know, how much you enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm obsessed with like psychology and humanity, just in general. Like,
And
I mean,
that's
that's
as
yeah,
fitting to your
yeah,
personality.
right. I mean, I love helping people, and I love to understand why they do what they do, and I love to figure that out, you know, and to try to help design ways to make that easier, or you know, or help them find their own way in this world. Like I like you said with astrophysics, you know, or whatever. Like it's not even just like another language. It's like it's so abstract that I mean, it's hard for me to even like even put myself in the same map as where they're on, you know, like I can't even like see the map. Like, I mean, the map's like, you know, in another universe. Like, I'm like, okay, I think I understand what you said about this, but like, I mean, it's really, I mean, I felt like my head was gonna fucking explode. I mean, I don't remember anything from astrophysicists for dummies or whatever, I think, or astrophysics for people in a hurry, the Neil deGrasse Tyson book that I read, and um, uh, the brief history of time. I don't remember shit. Like, I mean, I couldn't tell you one single fucking thing. I mean, black hole, but I've already heard of black holes before. Like, but that's about it.
So
Like,
what is a black hole?
I don't even know. I mean, it was
Exactly, that's my point.
I
It's
still
like
can't put it together.
you hear this Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about a bunch of things, and you have no idea what he's talking about. So everything he says, you have to accept it as fact. You cannot
It's
like
true. It's true.
you cannot say, well,
It's dangerous in
no,
a
you
way.
know what, no. I think that's not correct. You can't even do that.
Right.
The thing he said, yeah, you know, black hole is large and it's small. It's as largest and smallest. It's the beginning and the end. It's like, oh, okay.
Sure.
There's nothing you can say. And so, in that sense, when when you're learning something new, but without a point of reference to kind of compare and contrast it makes it hard to kind of learn the next step because you have not master the ground concept, the ground information, and the ground knowledge of what these needs to be done. Because a lot of time people say, "Hey, there's a black hole and it's defined as this," but even though it's in English, I have no idea what that means. Like for example, somebody say, "Hey, event horizon." What the hell does that mean?
I mean, I remember the word, but I don't remember. I mean, I couldn't
What
tell you.
about singularity? What does it mean?
Couldn't tell you.
Exactly. So when we
yeah.
say, hey, a black hole, it's the instance of a singularity or whatever bullshit that I can come up with. There's nothing you can say to debunk what I just said.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I think I think whatever you're learning about, you gotta care about. Otherwise, it's no different than values. Like it's like, yeah, you can explore any kind of values, but if it doesn't naturally
Right.
align to what you care about, then
But I think that's also
Exactly.
I think that's what like a good apprentice does or a good learner does. Is like they learn all the information they can about this, just almost accepting it as true, and then they start to work it back and actually see if there's kinks or adjustments.
Right.
And that's kind
Right.
of
So
like
this
people who end up
exactly.
like like changing theories have done, because they accepted things and they were kind of humble in some way, and yeah, and then they once they really
Right.
gain a lot of knowledge, they put their own like theory and spin or kind of research into.
Right. So
Great.
but that's my point though. When you learn something, but it isn't aligned with your interests, you don't go further and ask the question, what is a black hole? What is an event horizon? What is the Death Star? What is whatever? Because then if you are interested, you would say, well, I have no idea what a black hole is. They say black hole, but okay, black hole is this. Okay, I'll take it as fact. But then I want to learn about the parts of the black hole. What made it a black hole? What is the characteristic of a black hole? Why did it do the certain thing it does, right? Because you have an interest and you would discover even because there's questions.
You'll ask a
But
question, yeah.
Yeah,
but
well,
but but
I think there's a difference though between like interest slash like you know passion
Obsession, yeah.
or like the decision to actually go down that road. Because you're gonna be like, oh, that sounds interesting, but actually, you know what? I'm gonna go tend to my goats instead though, because I like my goats more.
right. And so passion, right? So you have knowledge, right? Then you have curiosity, then you have interest, then you have passion. So you may go down that path of interest, but they say, it's not as much as I doesn't give me as much like good vibe as much as I thought I would in the beginning. So I'd say I'm going to tend to my goats, right? To me, going tend to the goats is much better than learning. Okay, a black hole is this, whatever thing. So there is a certain, I guess, layers you have to get to because you got to go to say, well, I got this knowledge from Neil deGrasse Tyson's, right? And then you say, well, that's interesting. I'm curious to know what black hole is. You go research it, and black hole is something that is, have antimatter where matters becomes sucked into the little compact little.
You're already losing me. Like, I mean, I'm just like, as soon as you start talking about, like, this is like when people talk about self versus not self, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't care. I can't. I'm gone. Like, I mean, like, it's like I would never be a Buddhist because I just will never play that game. Like, I mean, I will
Right,
never.
but the thing
go
is,
down
that's what I'm saying is
yeah.
you won't ever be a Buddhist because you have no interest.
Right.
Even become a Buddhist. But there are people who become a Buddhist and they spend, 60 years of their life trying to find the self and not self. And
Yeah,
so
and
because it aligns with their interests. But
Yeah.
I'm saying is, go back to what I'm saying is, when you quest for knowledge, which is gonna give you this catapult, to get in front of the incumbent to get faster. But if it's not in your sustainability cycle, you will become stuck in that cycle of stagnation. When you get to the top, there's a stagnation that is real, and it happens for every single one that's tried it. So that means that whatever we do,
Only
it
if you're
has.
learning for the wrong reasons. Like, I mean, like
But that's
that's
what I'm saying is
yeah.
when you're eating the frog to get the outcome.
Right. Yeah. Yes. If you if you have an insatiable appetite to learn just so you can achieve a certain result, like then you're fucked. Like, I mean, then it's
Then
not gonna be fun.
you're gonna run into that stagnation cycle. But if you learn for the sake of just enjoying the learning of it, right? The quest for knowledge will naturally never end. I mean, you don't even have to try because it's just part of it. Because when you do something, it requires knowledge, and knowledge begets knowledge.
Then like the concept of range comes into play, you know, where you're more of a generalist versus a specialist, where you can apply, even though I don't like Buddhism, or not like, that's the wrong word, even though it doesn't naturally appeal to me, it doesn't mean that I want to learn about it. Even though I don't really like astrophysics, I can't even say it. Like, you know, it doesn't mean that I'm not curious about it enough to like slowly, maybe every once in a while, pick up a little tiny nugget from here, and apply it to the things that I do care about. You know, like that's interesting for me. Like, still, I'm not gonna not like forsake any new knowledge as something that's not worth my time. But like, then the concept of range comes into play, of being able to mash up a whole lot of different shit into stuff that you do care about, like, and then it becomes like really, really powerful.
Yeah, I think that. So let me have one more point here. I think I'll make is, you know, we're talking kind of this person, this like, you know, if you have a passion or interest for something, and this guy author Brooks made an interesting point about happiness, you know, being sort of a almost a diet based thing about your macronutrients, like your fats, your proteins and carbohydrates. And I like how he talked about like, you know, joy, purpose, and satisfaction. And, you know, joy is the enjoyment, let's say, doing something, but like purpose in that really meaning, the meaning of something can sometimes come from that emotional, you know, hurt, some pain that we had, you know. And whether like I found purpose in teaching kids math, because I just remember myself, like the pain and the struggle and the frustration about like not getting math or whatever. So like me teaching others, like, you know, kind of fulfilled some purpose inside of me, let's say. And so I was thinking it's interesting to like talk about kind of where our passions and wanting to go down some holes, I think, does end up coming from like some of that like lower, more reptilian brain of like the limbic region that's like, hey, like I was hurt in this way, and, you know, I was, you know, and then I went on this quest to I don't know, like you're kind of for things, Chris, even, you know, in yourself. And
you're spot on.
Yeah, true. I don't know what you're passionate about, but, you know, maybe it comes from some emotional like pain that you registered in your life or something.
So I think, you know, when we were talking, I was thinking, you know, joy, purpose, and fulfillment, right?
And satisfaction.
Okay, satisfaction. So my question would be, wouldn't you think that satisfaction what gives you purpose? Because when you're saying you like to teach, because you had the experience of when you were younger, you were struggling. So right now, if you were like you had the ability to go through these math problems, and when you teach those kids, you essentially getting the satisfaction of that is something that's missing from yourself, from you as an individual with this accumulation of knowledge, and there's certain pieces that's missing. By teaching those kids, it's almost like filling in the missing pieces that you had always longing for. So I say your satisfaction would actually lead you to find the purpose. Because if you never had struggling with math, I wouldn't be sure that you love to teach math. Wouldn't you say that would be fair to?
No, I see it as different, because I see it as like there was initially some pain or sort of some interest that I got to teach math, you know, from some emotional response that I had to it in general. And then like, but there's like the satisfaction though can come from like seeing the progress and like seeing it.
Right, I think
like,
the satisfaction is what, because let's say when you were younger, right, you did not get some parental love, fatherly love, or motherly love. When you get older, you yearn for that. So you trying to find the motherly love to replace it, whatever it is you're trying to replace, to put them into the empty space, right? Because that's is essentially when, let's say when you were younger, your parents, let's say your dad was not around, and then so you needed the fatherly love because it's that container was empty. When you get older, you probably will focus more on finding some fatherly love to fill that bucket, and whatever you take to fill that bucket satisfies you, right? Because that bucket is no longer empty. You're filling it up. So I'm saying that whenever you had some pain, whatever the pain is, the pain to me is the not fulfilling and not satisfied with with you missing something. When you say, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, you're missing something. And what you're missing and you struggle through, even though you found the answer, but the bucket of the satisfaction of getting it, knowing it, and how to use it, it's still empty. So whenever you get older, you want to teach this kid and they have got it. That feeling is also goes to you, to your bucket, and then that fills the bucket. It gives you the satisfaction to have that bucket filled. So I'm saying, if you look at all the studies of people who have like different set of childhood, where they have, like, let's say when they were young and they were poor, right? When they're poor, so when they go older, right, they are very influenced by their background, their upbringing. They're gonna not be very risky with their investment or be a spendthrift, just because they know that, hey, when I was poor, there wasn't a lot of money in that bucket. I didn't have a lot of stuff to kind of keep me satisfied. So I'm always have this fear bucket. That's the fear bucket there, right? It's not have the food, not be able to survive. When you get older, you are even more cautious because you want to feel that fear bucket to feel safe. So the upbringing determines your purpose. The lack of something inside of your childhood or your memory or your like your conscience creates a purpose. And to me, that's my hypothesis. I'm not sure if that's even um you know probable.
So I so I think I'm kind of in the and I mean, I agree with both you guys in a lot of ways, but like I think I'm a little bit more in your camp of, I feel like pain causes you to ask a lot of questions. And when you start to ask a lot of questions, then you start to explore and you start to learn a lot. And then all of a sudden you find yourself down a rabbit hole of serving your pain. And then all of a sudden that pain then becomes a purpose, in my opinion, eventually along the way. That's how I've seen this stuff develop. I feel like a lot of people that and true, you and I have talked about this many a times. I don't know that everybody, I think that everybody has a purpose. I don't know that, like, I think that reveals itself over time. And I think that reveals itself once there's pain that's been injected into somebody's life, like that could be when you're young, that could be when you're 50, that could be when you're 30, that could be when you're 18, that could be when you're 90, I mean, I don't know when that happens in people's life. This is just my theories, I guess. I think that is always the catalyst that wakes you up to go, oh shit, I don't know everything. Oh shit, like I got to go learn, more stuff. And then all of a sudden when you go down those rabbit holes of the knowledge coming into play, of you having this unquenchable, desire to go explore, and all of a sudden you find yourself 10 years later, accidentally becoming an expert in something that but it didn't feel like you were trying to become an expert in something, and then you're able to help other people, so like I don't know, that's kind of where I feel like.
But again, it's from
think
the perspective of you being a expert in sales. I mean, it's not like you had a kind of dramatic experience that say, hey, you have to sell or sell
Oh,
with.
I didn't, but I don't like to be an expert in sales. Like, I mean, I'm
No,
that
no,
was my point. That's my point, though. It's
no,
like
no, but for
I can get
example,
good
for you
stuff.
you have no pain associated with being sales, right? You didn't
Well,
get.
that's not totally true. I mean, like, I think if I was just like a psychologist and I was putting on my, examining my own life. I mean, I'm a small guy, right? Like, and I grew up in a world where I was trying to prove myself against a lot of other people. I'm very competitive. That's one of the reasons where my competitive nature comes into play. It's one of the reasons why I feel like I always have to be better than other people. And I don't mean I do that on
So
purpose.
basically, that's what I'm saying is, go back to what I said before. You are lacking something. You're compensating for it.
Yeah. But that wasn't a pain. Like, so
regardless whether or not you feel pain, I'm saying is scientifically, everyone has a purpose because everybody's lacking of something, and that lacking of something wants you to say the most satisfaction will come for me is to fill in the lacking. Whether I'm short, I want to be competitive so I can be compensated for the shortcoming.
But that's not purpose though. But that's this is where I'm getting. I gotta draw a clear line here. Like, I had a little bit of pain that maybe that led me down a certain path, but like that wasn't purpose. That was just a little bit of pain that I was trying to compensate for, or something along those lines. Like, I'm talking about real pain. Real pain leads to real questions, which leads to real substantive, lifelong purpose. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but
I can argue the same with other people. Like I say to you that people have similar magnitude of the atomic bombs to you, and a lot of people have probably less than you and did not make it. So how do you explain that?
Pain hurts. Like, I mean, like, it's not.
But you
like,
say pain gives you purpose, but that
purpose. I didn't say it always does. It certainly can kick you off down that road, but it can also just destroy
go back to what you're saying is everybody has a purpose, and pain is gives you that purpose. But then you say now that everybody can take the pain, and
it's a catalyst. It's a catalyst to explore and find purpose. I'm not saying that, like, pain. I'm not saying you find, because you had pain you get purpose. I'm saying that pain it kicks off a quest toward purpose. Kind of what Snow is saying is, like, you serve the pain you know best, and then all of a sudden, like, that's when it becomes fulfilling, and then it turns into purpose.
It's fulfilling because when you have pain, what is fulfilling when you have pain is to not have pain. You think about it. It's fulfilling. To fulfill something is to do the opposite. If you're holding up a boulder, the most fulfilling, right? But the most fulfilling is the feeling of putting it down.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so I don't, when you're in pain, right? The thing that you want, the immediate thing that you want, is not pain. It's to say, hey, can I lessen the pain? Can I get rid of the pain? That's the thing that you want, and that's the most fulfilling.
It makes you problem solve, and it makes you question. It makes you go find answers, and then when you go find answers, you're on your quest for knowledge.
That's what I'm saying is when you say that pain is not always the purpose, and that's what I'm saying is the purpose is finding something that's missing, and the pain. I agree with you, is a catalyst to accelerate your explorations of finding the things to make that thing compensated.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that, like, some people solve their problems with pain by just ending their life, or like, or trying to, like, numb themselves. Like, maybe that's their solution for it, like, I'm advocating.
But that's what I'm saying is the purpose. To me, you saying the purpose is end their life. If you say pain accelerates the purpose, it doesn't. Pain is something that accelerates, right? But in order to fulfill it, to fulfill whatever, to get the satisfaction, is the stopping of the pain. It gives people satisfaction.
I don't think pain ever goes away. I mean, that's when it transforms somewhere into purpose.
Gets to the point where gets to the point where it's bearable.
No, it doesn't. Like, I mean, that's when it turns into purpose, and it transforms into something that you can at least look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, at least I can do this with this.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I don't think it necessarily can, like, maybe I think it can, at first it can hurt you, but eventually I think you can transform yourself and be, like, acknowledge of it, like, it did hurt you. But I think that's the whole thing about just awareness and stuff. It's like you can put that behind you. Yes, it still defined you, and you still want to be on this quest, let's say, to help others not have this pain, let's say. But I think Chris, I really agree. It can be that catalyst for people to find their purpose, but not everybody really does. Maybe just people don't have the tools or don't know how to like really, let's say, navigate or just don't or just are stuck or something for some reason that pain isn't a catalyst. But yes, I think it can be a
Right.
catalyst.
You look at all over the world, right? Everybody is struggling. Majority of the population is struggling among other countries, and these kids are in pain. These families are in pain. They never get out of it. I'm sorry, but the statistics is going to be majority people did not find the purpose. They just ended, or they just
I
live. It just
yeah,
endure until they can't take it anymore and pass away. You look, I come from Vietnam, which is a third world country, and not only that, I'm not from a third world country. I'm from a third world country where nobody wants me, right? So I'm the trash of the trash. So you look at that perspectives, I don't see the people who has pain is going to overcome and find purpose and become this great person of great like influence and contribution to society. It doesn't happen like that. There's
I
no
just
opportunity for these kids.
I disagree though. Like
But how,
I've never seen what you've seen. I've never lived where you live. So I'm not gonna, I can't come with that paradigm. I would say though, just given this whole conversation around knowledge, they don't have access to anything. Like they're like they're living back in, 1800s. That's why people would set out. They were in pain. That's why people came to America the first time. Like, I mean, this country was founded on people seeking refuge from pain. Like people
but
go
the thing is,
explore,
Columbus is
they
not the
push.
only one who wants to get out. No, Columbus is not the only one who has pain. But why on the other ones? I mean, one Columbus, there are probably 100,000 of the people who are like him did
I
not
agree.
get a chance to go explore and become this well-known explorer.
I,
That's why I'm saying it's statistically, you cannot deny that majority of people who are in pain did not find the purpose that they intended, because Columbus, for whatever reason, was able to find a way to get money, to get a ship, to get a crew, to go out there, to get a permission from the royal family to go out. There are probably hundreds, thousands, 100,000 other people who are just like him, even more pain than Columbus.
Yeah, but true,
They
but I
did
think
not
like
amount to it.
I think that's why people like why we try to create a society where people can do something about their pain. Because I think you're right. Like a lot of people will be in pain, but they can't find a way to actually alleviate it. So they just become complacent or they just drink. Or, I think of, other countries. I don't know, let's look at like Russia, let's say that, just doesn't have a lot of like individual sovereignty to go do what you want. And there's a lot more. So you can be in pain, but sometimes you just can't do anything about it. So,
Right. So to me,
uh,
I don't discount that pain could give you this great push.
mhm.
But for whatever reason, this conversation make me think of putting this pain on a pedestal and worship it and say, I
no,
welcome pain. No, don't do that. To me,
no, no, no,
it,
no.
it's
Pain's
not
more
it's not
great
something
about it,
you
though.
want.
Huh? No, not at all. Like that's. I mean, we've talked about this so many times. Where I've often, many, many, many times gone and said I would rather, if somebody ever said, like, when I hear like conversations with people that are like, man, I just want to find a purpose in life. Oftentimes I'm like, no, you shouldn't. Like, because I don't think what you have to go through to find that. If you're already living like, if you would have told me I could have my life back before Amelia and still have Amelia obviously in my life potentially, but like I didn't have an unhappy life before that. I also didn't have a lot of pain, but like I didn't have an unhappy life, and I wasn't like, sure, in theory, if you'd asked me then and you're like, what would you want in this world, I'd probably like, well, I'd love to have a little bit more of a purpose or something like that. I mean, I'm not saying that but once again, I did not have an unhappy life, but like if you would have asked me that, and I would have been listening to some podcast or whatever, and be like, yeah, purpose is what I'm missing, or something along those lines. Here's the rub of it, like you're saying, True, is like, I don't know that people want to go through what you need to go through in order for purpose to
Mhm.
become a thing. So I'm like, I honestly would tell anybody at this point in time, if they asked me, like, truthfully, if they were like, how do I live a purpose driven life, I would say, if you haven't figured out that yet already, then please, for the love of God, don't. I hope you don't ever have to figure that out. Like, and then come. But if you already have experienced that, the question isn't how can I live a purpose-driven life? It's what the fuck can I do with this pain, and can you help me? Like that's a different that's what somebody that's already gone through the pain is asking, right? Like not you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, but I also think there's like personal pain experience, but we're also like empathetic creatures. So it's like we can like understand the pain that other people have and find purpose and meaning through, healing the pain
Of
from others.
course. No, I want
to
to heal that. I want to heal that. Like I'm saying, no. I guess maybe I wasn't clear about that. If they are going through that, then I want to help them more than anything in the world, to help them to get to that point in time. I'm saying if they haven't got to the point in time where they are in a lot of pain, like I do not want to encourage that for somebody,
I agree. I'm just saying, like, like we don't have to go through personal pain experiences to find purpose, though. I think we can find purpose just through being understanding and empathetic of what other people's pains and struggle are. And sure, we might not be able to have the same like drive though that individual who had, let's say for instance, I don't know, a rape victim, let's say, who's probably going to be a lot more passion driven against like I don't know, rape violence, or things like that, compared to somebody who was just like an ally. And sure, like they've lived like a sheltered good life or whatever, but they really want to help that person out. They'll probably find some purpose in that, but it won't be like that same amount of drive though,
Right.
But I totally agree with what you're saying. Like you kind of don't want, you like don't want people to find that really driven purpose, because I do agree that like the more pain you've gone through, kind of like the more purpose you can really have to kind of Trio's point about like holding that ball up or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, okay, the best analogy that I can give you is, like before Amelia, I looked at a map and I saw roads all over the place. I'm like, I can go anywhere. Yeah, I can have a purpose to go that way. I can have a purpose to go that way. Like, I only see one fucking road now, every single damn day. Like, I mean, like, there's only one road. I can't get off this road. Like, I mean, there is no other alternatives. Like, that's the difference of what I'm describing. Is like, I don't have a choice. It's, if I did have a choice, like I would take that all day long. Like, I guess is my kind of my the point of what I'm getting at is like, to what you were saying, True, or Snow, of they have they're going to be way more passionate, if you want to call passion the term. I don't know if that's what you want to call it. They're laser focused on it. Like, that's all that they can think about, right? Like, the other people might have some empathy or something like that, and they may care a little bit, but like, that's fine. That's just being a human and being normal with wanting to support other people. But like, that's not purpose. This is what I keep going back to, is like, I don't think people understand what purpose is until they have it, and then they're like, oh shit, I don't want this, but I got it now that I do. I have to. You know what I mean?
I do.
So that's where the knowledge comes into play, though. Like, this is like, that all kind of comes back all together for me. Is like, it's all about exploring, and I didn't start exploring again until I had something that made me explore. And I'm not saying that like I love exploring, and I've come to realize the power of exploring, and how it's given my life fulfillment a little bit. But it's still on the road to purpose that I don't want to necessarily have, but I have it, and I'm going to have it. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's not a. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And then again, at the same time, a lot of people that understand that stuff will go, well, I mean, maybe you're not ever living in.
But that thing, like, you wouldn't have, you also wouldn't have like had an effect on my life or whatever. You and Tree wouldn't have an effect on my life, or Clubany or whatever, like, without it happening. So it's like, you kind of you make the best of the worst, of the pain that's happening to you, and you don't even, sometimes people don't realize the positivity or goodness then your efforts end up bringing to others, on your, whether like kids that I've helped in math, let's say, or something like that along the way, so.
No, you're dead on, spot on. I can guarantee you that I would have never met True, and we would never be having this conversation right now if this was 4 years ago. I mean, there's zero chance in hell that would have ever been on my life roadmap. Never in a fucking million years. Like, I mean, never. Yeah. I couldn't even have imagined that. Literally. I mean, you could have said, name the most random off the wall thing you'd be doing, where I'd say, oh, we're doing a podcast for, Reflection 207 on a book that I was, talking about the quest for knowledge, and I'm almost done with, writing 365 reflections for this. I would have been like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about, man. Like, I don't write. This isn't what I do. Like, yeah, I don't mind learning stuff, but I mean, like, this is like, I have a career. Like, that's what I do. That's what I focus on, you know what I mean? Like, it's
I go with my friends. I play beer pong. I play, this and that.
right.
Yeah, and I think it makes me kind of think about just my students and how a lot of the parents and we try to push the kids. Oh, what do you want to do? You gotta find a purpose. What do you do? What are you passionate about? And yet it's like, what? So are we supposed to traumatize kids so that
Right.
That's so bad.
No, seriously. Well, actually, that's a really good point. Is this is kind of what I was getting at? Is like, I don't want you to have a purpose, but what I do want you to do is to explore. What I do want you to do is go explore. Keep exploring. Like, find just explore. Like, and then maybe at some point in time, an atomic bomb will drop on your life. That's a guarantee.
It will. It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I've been saying, purpose doesn't revolve around pain. That's what I'm saying.
You like that? You don't think purpose revolves around pain, Trio?
No, it doesn't. You don't have to have pain to find a purpose. People can have a purpose without having an atomic bomb. And like Chris was saying, is you don't want. I mean, you don't want to trade atomic bomb so they can find a purpose. That, to me, that's hard. It's hard to take. And like you were saying, you don't want to traumatize kids so that they can find a purpose. And so that's what I'm saying is, purpose is purpose. Purpose is feeling something that person is lacking of, whatever that is. And pain does accelerate and does sometimes give you the push. But if you were pointing in the right direction, the push will get you there quicker. If you point in the wrong direction, you hit the wall and you basically pass away. And so for me is, I don't want people to think that we want to put this pain on this pedestal and try to like inflict pain on ourselves so that we can find a purpose. I don't believe that at all. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't want that, right? I'm not going to explore that. If pain comes to me, I have to deal with it. I'm not going to look for pain and try to inflict pain on myself so that I can say, hey, I will find a purpose. But the talk we have is because we will keep saying that pain gives you purpose and this and that. People may mistakenly think that, hey, I need to inflict pain on myself, traumatize my kids so they can find a purpose. And this is not at all what you guys are saying either. That's what you just said.
Not at all. No, actually, it's funny because you remember the book Into the
Wild?
Into Thin Air?
Into Thin Air. Where the Mount Everest disaster of 1996 by John Krakauer or whatever. And those were people that were seeking purpose. Like, for no reason, you're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you putting yourself into this? There is no exploration to be had here. Like, there's been thousands and thousands of people before you that have gone up this mountain already. You're not even doing it by yourself. You're cheating your way up there to put yourself through pain so you could come back down. For what fucking reason? Right? Like, oh no, like now, like, read the book and hear the people's stories of why they came there. They don't train. Like, they maybe did done a little bit of mountaineering in their life, but not a lot. They were like businessmen that could pay to have somebody hike up there, and and you're like, those are people that are seeking, like what you're saying, True. They're seeking pain to figure out what
that's what we want to send the wrong message.
Yes. Don't do
right.
That.
That's not the message, because that's what I'm saying is purpose. Everyone can find that purpose, but it doesn't have to go through pain. Pain is one of the avenue that purpose will come out of. Correct. But it's not always. So don't try to put yourself in walking through hell to find pain. It's
what do you think is another way? And I'm not saying I don't know if pain is the only way, but I'm just curious what you think is another way.
I think the approach I'm taking is self-discovery. Continue to quest for yourself. I think that will also essentially lead you to a purpose. If you know yourself enough, then you know what makes you fulfill, satisfy, enjoy. If you discover yourself enough and ignore the suggestions of other people who don't know you, To say, hey, true, you should be honest. True, you should be, uh, you know, very, you know, outgoing. If I'm not outgoing, for them to tell me to be outgoing, it go against my nature. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't matter how long I do it. I can do it because I have trained enough, but I don't enjoy it. Then eventually I'll stop.
You're
But if
preparing
I
for purpose is what I would call it. You're preparing for purpose. Like you don't
But
know
if
when
if,
it's
if
gonna.
I'm an introvert, right? I love to sit by the beach by myself and listen to the ocean breeze for hours. Who can do that, right? I read code and I enjoy that code more than I read comic books. Don't know why, but that's the way that I am. So the more I learn about myself, the more I can give myself more of you know, a a choice that I can choose and see if what I do is feeding back to me. Is this fulfilling? Is it satisfaction? Versus, oh, I have to find a time bomb so I can be forced into finding myself on this rocket, trying to find directions. Because most people, and I'm not saying like 50, 60%, I'm talking about like 80, 90% of people don't find the right direction and end up hitting the wall and goes away. Most people who have crisis atomic bomb end up getting divorces or getting lonely or getting depressed or getting completely getting into a bunch of other mental issues. You got people that is in other countries and even in America where they become homeless because they got into the wrong decisions and they're in pain and they just make the wrong decision after the wrong decision. This is what we're talking about, the spiral out of control. A spiral downward, right? Or a spiral upward. You have to make the right decision for it to make it go upward. But if you choose the wrong direction, the only spiral direction is going to go is out of control, not in the control that you think. Just because we have the ability to find some sense of pain doesn't mean it's a correct one for us until we know ourselves first. Who are we? Why are we made this way? What kind of background do we have? What do we have that's missing? What is our why? Right? We read Viktor Frankl, the why. A why can endure anyhow. So if you can find your why, I mean, a lot of time your why just because it's the way you feel, because you like to be this um, you know family oriented person. Then when you have family around, you feel satisfied. If you're not a family oriented person, when you have people around you, you feel disgust. When you are an introvert, you go out to a party, you sit in a corner and say, this is not fun for me. If you're an extrovert, you sit in a corner, this is not fun for you. You want to go out there and talk to people and get people to do whatever, because it's how you feel, because your feeling is a reflection of your expressions of your genes. When you do certain things that your genes say, hey, yes, this is what I want, then it will leave you alone. If you don't, let's say I eat a bad apple, well, my stomach is not going to let me be at peace. It's going to say, you got to take some medicine. You got to soothe this stomach ache. Otherwise, I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm not going to make you throw up. I'm not going to do all this thing. I'm going to make you, you know, you regret the decision you do. So, like we were saying is, a healthy man wants 1,000 things. A sick man only wants one thing. And I don't have to tell you what that is.
That's such a profound statement. The last thing you just said there, of that is exactly what I was trying to describe before, of my life beforehand. Like I wanted 1,000 things, like, and I could have gone any direction. Like now I only have one direction. Like
Exactly. I'm just saying
it narrows everything, yeah.
Because when you're in so much pain, what you're doing today is going to alleviate most of the pain that you have. The biggest pain. I mean, not all of it, but it soothes those pain for you. So when you look at doing anything else, it doesn't soothe the pain as much. So whatever you're doing it soothes the most of all the approaches you have. That's why the only choice you have is that choice. The only role you have is that role.
Right.
Because you need to calm down the pain. You need to compensate for something that's there that's causing you the heartaches.
Yeah. I mean, well, all right. I know we're way over time for the night. But are you guys feel good to put a pin in it? Right? I mean, I can keep
I'm good.
going.
I'm getting sleepy too. You know, I'm running that down slow.
Awesome. Well, that was a fun conversation, fellas, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat. The question we can leave with everybody is, do you want to be an expert or an explorer? I mean, for me,
Both.
I think the answer is easy. No, I don't want to be an expert in anything anymore. Like, I don't care.
Both. You want to do both.
No, well,
You want to be an expert at knowing yourself.
fair. That's the one thing I want to be an expert in.
That's why I say both.
Yeah.
Not
fair
everything.
enough.
Only thing that matters. I don't think that matters to you.
Agreed. All right. Well, thanks for joining, everyone, and we will see you all tomorrow night.
Tomorrow. Sounds good. See ya.